Welcome to Conversations with Jen and Mel. This show is about real life with real people, having real conversations, from better health to mental health and more. Let's check out the conversation right now with your host, Jen and Mel.
Today's episode of Jen and Mel, we are answering the question, is it always the man's fault? What say ye? Is it always the man's fault? Is it always his fault when he goes out and cheats? We already did why do women cheat? But is it always the man's fault when he steps outside of the relationship? And the answer to that is nope. It is not always the man's fault. That's it. Well, because when the initial combo, they're up to the combo. Because by the time we get here, we've already had a conversation. However, when you pose the question, is it always the man's fault when he cheats in a relationship? I mean, he does ultimately make the decision, correct? Okay. All right. So, was he provoked? Probably. Listen. It is a lot. That's a whole lot of different dynamics going on. Because a lot of layers. Every relationship is different. Because is it always the man's fault when sometimes, it's his fault. It's his fault that he's the attention whore. It's his fault that he's married, don't know how to wear his ring. It's his fault that he took the number. It's his fault that after he took the number, he lied about him being single, or maybe not. But it's his fault. But is it always his fault? The answer is no. Absolutely not. Because you have some men that are going home to hell and would rather not. True. And so, well, what kind of hell are the ladies bringing to the men that make them want to step outside the relationship? So, see, I was taught that most men choose the path of least resistance. And so today, women don't know that way. Today we have a lot of mouthy women, that want to say what they think and think what they say. And it should just be that way. But the thing about that is, words are powerful. And words kill. So on one hand, you're trying to build up a relationship. On the other, you're killing it with your mouth. And then a third, he's like, well, I like her. I want to be there, but now I need to be healed from her. So now he is going outside the relationship to be comforted. It's something drawing him back to you, whether it's convenience, whether it's the intimacy or the sex. Whether it's familiarity, whatever it is, whether it's history, whether it's family. Something is drawing him back to you, but he's saying, I don't have comfort here. So I need to go somewhere else to lay my head. That's a difficult place to be. That's a difficult place to be a woman that's building something. Because a wise woman buildeth a house and a foolish woman pluck it down with her hands. And so I want to say pluck it down with her mouth. So we're doing everything to build this. We've got family. We may be even cooking and cleaning and washing clothes, but can't stop talking. Why are you looking at me, Melanie? And not only that, and some women don't fight fair. And wait, in the relationship, you all may not fight fair, but the woman may be more able to tolerate it because women tend to bounce back from things that men can never endure in relationships. In relationships. You know, I'm not saying in life overall, but I'm saying in relationships. So some of the attacks that they launch out against you, they can't take. And so we retaliate. Now they're just like bleeding and looking for band-aids. And that band-aid oftentimes is their absence, which also grows into them being comforted by someone else. So that's my answer. What say ye?
I mean, I also would agree that it is not always the man's fault, even though he makes the ultimate decision. But what led to that decision could be not feeling safe at home, not feeling cared for intimately, or just as a person. Like, you don't care about his feelings or his wants or his, desires or his preferences. It's like, just be happy that, if I cook spaghetti, whether you like it or not, you just eat it and be happy about it.
Wow. Not being honored.
Not being honored in their space. So.
I agree. You said not feeling safe, not feeling heard, not feeling honored, not feeling. And so we think we talked about this in another episode. I've seen a lot of men feeling devalued and the women in their lives always prioritizing their children over them. And we're not talking about their infant children. We're not talking about their young children. We're talking about their grown tail children. And so, and normally with the women, it's always the male child that they treat like that. And so now you have the husband or the boyfriend or whoever in the relationship seeing her honoring this grown man, because that's all he sees, especially if it's not his. He sees her honoring this grown man, prioritizing this grown man's feelings over his. And so there becomes a conflict, especially when that other man, her child, is not honoring the other man. So now they're at odds with each other in the whole household, the whole relationship. There's a great divide there. And so he has this underlying current in the house. And you know what? And I hate to say it, especially when you're married, Mama, you dead wrong. Your grown son over your husband because your grown son gonna go about their business.
Hopefully.
And get their life. Hopefully. But what's gonna happen with that relationship that we're not prioritizing? Yeah. So what you say?
About the killing of the relationship?
Yeah.
I mean, those are the things that will lead him to look for comfort and peace, fulfillment, honor somewhere else, respect somewhere else.
Yeah. We were just out in a conference recently, and one of the things that my spiritual dad was asking my husband about me, and one of the things that stuck out to me was not just the way I loved him, but honor. How important that was for a man to feel honored. And so recently, I've been monitoring a certain couple that I'm acquainted with, and more so the female in the relationship versus the male. And throughout the years, I've been watching them.
And I've been watching them make up and break up and make up and break up and make up and break up. But I've been watching the slow death of something that they're holding on to, but it ended a long time ago. And so in between, you have these other relationships and this infidelity to overcome. You have all these things that are just coming in the relationship as baggage when you realize that there was never any honor in the relationship. That when the relationship was, because this was their second time around, when the relationship was rekindled, when it was rediscovered, when they rediscovered one another, it was already built on the hurt from the previous. So it didn't have a fair chance.
I think that happens a lot.
Yeah.
People don't deal with the root issues.
Mm-hmm.
They bury them or cover them up.
Yeah, suppress them, yeah.
And try to keep moving.
Yeah.
But that root issue was never addressed, and it's going to keep reeling its head.
Yeah. And it comes up in the conversation. Because you know it comes up in the conversation when a woman starts talking about how bad a man is in bed.
Oh.
And you want to keep him? And you don't want him to go figure out if he any good to somebody else, or tell him how small he is, or how insufficient or inadequate he is.
Mm-hmm.
Tell him how dumb he is, how,
Oh.
But you want to keep him. No, baby, that's the beginning of the end.
Is that the beginning of the end, or that's the nail in the coffin?
No, that's the beginning of the end. Like,
I never understood that whole name calling thing. How are you with somebody that you think is dumb? If you don't really think they're dumb, why would you say that? Like,
why would you kill them with your words?
Yeah.
But people speak from a place of hurt so often.
Okay.
And so when we talk about, like I said earlier, that men choose a path of least resistance. And so I don't mean to be funny, but, that's what men be talking about them white women out there and the angry black woman. Because they feel like, or they felt like, because now white women are where you out to. But at one time, white women were known for being, quote unquote, docile.
Until they done with you. And then they are very dangerous. Their words are dangerous.
Yeah. In the relationship.
Yes.
But us, in a relationship, we think it's still supposed to work after we treat you like a nigga in the back alley, excuse me. Fight you with our words like we would our worst enemy.
But why they fighting so? I don't relate. I cannot understand. Why are they fighting so much?
Hurt.
Hurt about what?
Hurt. Unhealed, perpetuated trauma. So wait a minute, hold on. Okay, for real. So I was talking to a young lady a couple days ago that was in this relationship that I'm talking about. And I said, have you taken note of the dysfunction that you're in? I said, how healthy does this look to you? So you didn't think if y'all kept starting and stopping, making up and breaking up, eventually there would actually be a breakup? Or were you going to get married and then have to separate from it and then get divorced? I mean, because that's dysfunction. What does healthy look like to you? She says, well, I've never seen a healthy relationship. I said, baby, if you don't put down them housewives and go get you some Leave It to Beaver and some Cosby's, and no, I'm serious. No, for real.
Right.
For real. I said, if you don't put down the housewives and go back and binge watch some Cosby shows, if you don't go back and get Leave It to Beaver, and binge watching. We are binge watching Netflix with our families when we really need to go get Leave It to Beaver and the Cosbys.
Okay.
What was the most recent one with Will Smith in it that they remade?
The
Fresh Prince. Or come on, let's even try that. For real. But we need to go back to some old landmarks. We need to go revisit some things because our children don't know what healthy looks like anymore. And so, even is it always a man's fault? No, it's not always even his fault. He just don't even know another way.
Okay.
He hasn't even seen anything different. He don't know that a man ain't gotta be a hoe. Why? Because daddy was a hoe.
Yeah.
Granddaddy was a hoe.
Yeah.
His friends are whorish.
Yeah.
The video, they a hoe.
Yeah.
And still, some men with Jesus still don't know. I'm just saying.
You're right.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So is it always their fault? Well, we can actually give them the blame for it because in adulthood, we take the blame for it. But these societal norms are ridiculous.
They are.
What was once an abomination or once defiled has now become the norm. And so, is it always the man's fault? No, but hold on. I'm watching a video. One of my Facebook friends got this video. Got these loose tail girls on the bed of this truck, peeking out the window, flapping their behinds, twerking. She like an acrobat. She on her head twerking and bent over. And he was like, dang, I'm glad my sons ain't got to do this for attention. And so, women, if you win a man like that to get attention, then what kind of man did you just win?
See, I think a lot of the old sayings that we grew up with, they don't say those no more.
I don't mean to
how
be
you
funny.
get them is how you gonna lose them. They don't say that no more.
So, what those young girls didn't understand, first of all, they was already cute. But they was out there looking like strippers.
Mm-hmm.
So they looked like they had a price tag on their head and they can be bought for the right offer. I'm just saying. So, if he can buy you, do he really want to keep you? If you can be bought for a little bit of nothing. And what women aren't taught today is class. They don't understand that in the interruption of all of that, the woman with class that would have walked down that street while they got all this bad attention would have got the right attention.
Mm-hmm.
They fanning money. I ain't seen that much wiggling since, what was the name of the strip club back on Finkel or Watts, Mozambique or something like that. Yeah, I used to work for this guy named Kawaja that used to do the outfits for the strippers. Watts, Mozambique. I ain't seen that much shaking of the behind.
Well, they say that men put women into 3 categories: the wife, the friend, or the freak. So if you out there on the back of the truck, I can't stand her sometimes.
Can it be trifold? Can we?
Well, that's the thing.
When you get married,
They hit the jackpot when they get all 3.
Woo! That's it's late, y'all. It's late. Blame it on it.
It's early and late at the same time. Okay.
Wait a minute, say it again. Say it again for the record's sake. I need to hear it again.
I have heard that men put women into 3 categories: the wife, the friend, or the freak.
Okay, listen. Okay, so hold on. Every now and then I have my Victoria's Secret moments with my husband where he worked all day and I figure, I think he'd have worked all day. I done cleaned the house, got dinner ready, and tonight I think I want to look like dinner.
All right.
Yep, nope. He gonna look at me and say, baby, why you look like you got next?
Wow.
I done had on my lace. I got on my longest blonde hair and made up and ready. I mean, he said, baby.
That's not the right answer.
That's not the right answer.
Anyway, but what I was saying was if you are the attention that you're attracting by the shaking of the body on the back of the truck with the money, which category do you think you're going in?
Freak. Temporary, part-time,
Okay.
freak.
That's
Side
it.
chick, side piece.
That's it.
After midnight booty call. After the club done shut down, late in the midnight hour. Yeah.
And whether we want to admit it or not, men also think if they can get it that easy, then what prevents you from giving it to everybody else
Someone
that
else.
easy?
To someone else that easy. Yeah.
So, how you behave, how you dress, sometimes it does say a lot about what you're going to attract to yourself.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. And you end up with some garbage.
And the same goes the other way. What they say about the housewife that get too comfortable and not keeping herself, they say keeping yourself up, which I don't like that term, but not making yourself presentable to give him something to look at when he get home.
Girl, I'm
and
then
then
you
you
got
got
my wig on tonight.
all of that out in the street that's half naked doing the most.
I'm sleeping with my wig on tonight.
And yes, we want them to have enough self-control. But as another old saying that the old ladies, the old people used to say is, my eyes ain't...
Everybody like a little eye candy.
I can see.
Yeah, everybody like a little eye candy. So one night after I left here, I got home. Got in the garage. And I knew it was late. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, okay, well, my husband, he's going to be up at 3:30. And so I took my makeup off, the remnants of it and whatever, the residue, whatever. Remade my face. Made myself cute. And then went to bed. You think he saw that? He said, I thought, came home, went in the shower.
And what is that?
And got in the bed. Butt naked, y'all. Oh. He woke up the next day and he saw me, my face all made up. He said, I just thought you were too tired to take your makeup off.
Y'all funny. If only he knew the lengths that she goes through. And two, Lord have mercy for him not to notice. That's my husband get irritated if he got a haircut or he cut his beard up and I don't.
Oh, listen, mine come in with his hair. I said, oh, hey, boyfriend. Hey, boyfriend. Because I promise you my husband prettier than me. By the time, he prettier than me. Yeah, Yeah, I said.
So they want to be noticed and complimented too.
They want to be noticed and complimented
And
too.
just like after you go through all of the shenanigans to make sure you look good for him,
Yeah.
and he don't notice, you be like, what is that?
Yeah. But you know what? I remember, we're talking about, is it always his fault? And so I remember having a session with a client recently. And he was like, oh, I think I think I might have missed a session today. But anyway, What he said was, me and my ex-wife, he and his ex-wife, he said, I realize now what the problem was. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't her fault. It was our fault. We got too comfortable. And so these conversations, like we have these little conversations on Conversation with Jen and Mel. But let me tell you, sometimes I leave here like, okay, baby, go home, and I know you've been sweet, but you could be sweeter. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I know you think about him, but why don't you think about him a little more? Why don't you be more considerate of him? It always keeps me, because we have to remember that, and this is for husbands and wives, and even me, because I'm always in meetings on the other side of town, and I'm always sitting in another man's face. I have to be mindful that I'm not dead either. So I have to know myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so after a few days in meetings for man after man after man, I'm a whole grown woman. I like men like me. I take my big head self back home and say I'm not coming out of my house in another man's face for the rest of the week. I need to be with my king. You know?
Yes.
I need to consecrate myself and sit with my man, because I've been exposed to so much. So we have to know ourselves.
Yes.
And so in a relationship, it's important that you know who you're committing to. So is it always their fault? But come on. In the beginning, when you met them, him or her, how did you start out? And before you committed yourself to them, they showed you who they were. So is it always their fault? No. Because they were who they were when you met them a lot of times.
Yes.
You know, and so we have to be responsible for what we made covenant with, you know? So I'm guilty. Sometimes we see all the signs and we want to blame them, but is it really their fault? So we started out one way, but let's walk on through here. Is it really their fault for them being them and you asking them to be somebody else with a different set of fingerprints, when they were being themselves all along, and they showed you who they were when you first met them, but we decided that we would come into covenant with them, come in agreement with them, get in a partnership with them, when we never even agree with them, and we act like we're going to change them. So whose fault is it?
Right.
Whose fault is it? I'm saying.
Both their fault.
I'm saying.
It's everybody's fault.
If
Everybody
somebody
take a
show you
piece
who
of
they
this
are,
pie.
yeah.
But we have talked about that before, I think, about
Yeah.
you cannot change somebody. If you're going into it already with your list of things that you need to change about this person, this ain't your person.
This ain't your person.
Don't marry this person.
So when you got with him and they was community man, you thought you would change community man and make him your man. Now whose fault is it? It's your fault.
That's your fault. That is definitely your
Joe
fault.
ain't Jonathan, babe.
You chose wrong from the get.
You chose wrong. So is it always the man's fault? Nope.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Conversations with Jen and Mel. Please join us every Monday at 8 p.m. for new episodes on Facebook, YouTube, Rick.tv, and the Rick TV app by way of Apple TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Join us again next time on Conversations with Jen and Mel.